Let's talk about vitamin B9. You've definitely heard of it, but you've probably heard two different names, folic acid and folate. And you know what? Most of us, myself included, have probably used them interchangeably. But it turns out that's a huge mistake. They are absolutely not the same thing. And figuring out the difference is actually pretty important for your health. So let's crack this code. So right off the bat, what is the real difference? I mean, you look at a loaf of bread and the label says it's enriched with folic acid. But then you eat a big leafy green salad and you're told you're getting folate. They're both labeled as vitamin B9, so are they the same? The short answer is a hard no. And the why takes us on a pretty fascinating journey from a farmer's field all the way to a science lab. Okay, here's the best way to think about it. We're dealing with one essential vitamin, B9, but it comes in two totally different forms. They have different origins, and our bodies handle them in completely different ways. And this slide really gets to the heart of it. On one side, you have natural folate. This is the stuff you find in whole foods like spinach, lentils, beans. It's the form our bodies have evolved to recognize and use. It's already active, it's body ready. It gets in there and gets straight to work. On the other side, you have folic acid. This is the synthetic version, the one made in a lab. You find it in fortified foods and most supplements. Now, it's super stable and cheap to make, which is great, but it's inactive. It's like a locked file. Your liver has to do a bunch of work to convert it into a form your body can actually use. That brings up a great question, right? If our bodies are designed for the natural stuff, why on earth did we invent this synthetic version? Well, believe it or not, the answer is one of the biggest public health success stories of the last 100 years. So picture this. Before 1998, a heartbreaking number of babies were being born with really serious neural tube defects, conditions like spina bifida. And the real challenge is that these defects happen super early in a pregnancy, often before someone even knows they're pregnant. The massive breakthrough was the discovery that getting enough vitamin B9 could prevent most of these cases from ever happening. The solution was both simple and totally brilliant. Fortified the food supply. The idea was, let's add folic acid to things almost everyone eats: flour, bread, cereals, pasta. And the results? They were staggering. The US saw an immediate drop of 20 to 35% in these devastating birth defects. It was an absolute, undeniable win. And the impact was just so clear, so immediate, and literally life-saving. As soon as this mandatory fortification started, the rates just plummeted. I mean, you're looking at a picture-perfect example of preventative medicine working on a massive national scale. And let's be clear, this isn't just something that happened back in the 90s. This one policy continues to prevent hundreds, maybe even over 1,000 of these birth defects in the US every single year. It has done and continues to do a massive amount of good. But like any good story, there's a plot twist. That incredible success has a really complex scientific epilogue. And the synthetic nature of folic acid has led scientists to ask some pretty important questions about what happens when our bodies get more than they can handle. Remember that whole conversion process we mentioned, the one that happens in the liver? Think of folic acid like a blank key. It shows up at your liver, but it can't unlock anything yet. A very specific enzyme has to slowly, carefully cut that key into the right shape, that's the active form, before your body can use it. And the key word there is slowly. This enzyme works very slowly in humans. So what happens if you take in more of those blank keys than your liver's slow enzyme can keep up with? Well, you get a buildup. Some of that unconverted, uncut key ends up just circulating in your bloodstream. And that is what scientists call unmetabolized folic acid, or UMFA. This is the stuff that's at the very center of the current scientific conversation. So what are the potential worries? Well, researchers are looking into a few things. Could high levels of UMFA maybe hide a vitamin B12 deficiency? Could it affect our immune cells? But I want to be really, really clear here. Widespread harm from the levels you get in fortified foods has not been proven. Right now, this is an area of active scientific curiosity, not a settled fact or a public health crisis. Naturally, this whole conversation leads us to genetics, and specifically to a gene you may have seen talked about online called MTHFR. It's often surrounded by a lot of hype and maybe even some fear, so let's cut through the noise and separate fact from fiction. First thing you need to know, having a common variant in your MTHFR gene is, well, it's incredibly common. We're talking about 30 to 40% of the entire population. So if you have one, you are in very good company. All these variants really do is make one of the enzymes that activates folate a little less efficient. It doesn't mean your system is broken, it's just a little different. So here's where the concern comes in for some clinicians and researchers. The thinking is that for people with these less efficient enzymes, having a lot of that unmetabolized folic acid, those blank keys, floating around could essentially clog up the system. It might compete with the natural folate that's trying to get in and do its job, potentially getting in the way of critical processes like DNA repair. It's a really important part of the scientific debate. But, and this is a huge but, it is so important to see the bigger picture. For most people, and that includes those with MTHR variants, your genes are just one small piece of a very large puzzle. When we're talking about things like managing homocysteine levels, which is a key job for folate, other factors are often way more important. Things like your overall diet, your B12 levels, and your general lifestyle can have a much bigger impact. Okay, so we've gone through a lot of the science, the history, the debate. What does this all mean for you today? What's the practical, real-world takeaway? Where should we be trying to get our vitamin B9 from? Well, the scientific consensus on this is actually really clear and honestly kind of simple. Get it from your food. Your body is just built to use the natural folate that's packed into things like leafy greens, beans, lentils, and citrus fruits. If you want to give your body what it knows how to use best, prioritizing these foods is the way to go. So let's tie it all together. The folic acid fortification program, an undisputed, massive public health win that continues to do good. For most people, the amount of folic acid in those fortified foods is not a problem. But the clearest, simplest biological truth is that our bodies were designed to run on the natural folate from whole foods. That really is the gold standard. And that really brings us to our final thought. We've seen that folate is a key player in managing an important health marker called homocysteine. But we've also seen that it's just one player on a much bigger team. So the real question to leave you with is this. Knowing everything that goes into it, what can you do to keep that system working in that optimal range? Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer.